The lowering Starfield scores on Steam is apparently a conspiracy, or at least it might seem that way with the way people try to explain it away or discount them or act like they're not reliable. So I thought it would be fun to react to and kind of read through something on thegamer.com written by Mike Drucker. Now, he is a comedian. He's written for The Tonight Show, Full Frontal with Samantha Bee. So he's funny, okay? And I mean this to be funny. I think we can kind of laugh at this and the sort of the satire of just taking this too seriously. I think it's fine that people are leaving review scores after playing the game for 50 or 100 hours and saying they don't recommend it. Now, I do sometimes think that people play a game for a really, really long time, and then the final 20 hours, they get burned out, and they sort of retroactively reinterpret all the hours in the game. I don't really think that's what's going on with Starfield. I don't think the overwhelming majority of people that are leaving votes for it on Steam are doing that. I think the holiday sale caused a surge of people to finally check out the game, and they're, coming to the conclusion that a lot of us came to, that it just isn't that great of a game. Now, if you're enjoying the game, I still think you can laugh at this, okay? I think this is funny. This is meant to be lighthearted, okay? So just, we don't need to take this so serious. So here is the name of the article. Yes, your favorite game being disliked is a conspiracy against you. You should definitely take those negative Steam reviews personally. Merry Christmas! Did you have fun over the holidays? Maybe you spent time with your extended family, remembering the good times from past years and creating new memories you'll cherish forever. Maybe there was an unexpected connection with an older relative whose wisdom will guide you through difficult times. And who knows, maybe you opened a few gifts that are going to give you much-needed helping of comfort and joy during what can be a dark and often depressing time of the year. There is peace. There is hope. There is understanding. So obviously you can tell, we're off to a good start here, sort of, hyperbolically talking about, the holidays. But also there are users giving your favorite game negative reviews on Steam, and this must mean it is a personal conspiracy against you. Your favorite game is objectively a near flawless masterpiece that lacks faults with humanity's capability to detect them. Yet vile trolls seem intent on writing bad faith reviews. Oh, these reviews might mention commonly held criticism of the game, but just because thousands of paying players write this could have had maps or characters should be interesting, that doesn't mean they actually believe those claims. And if they do, they must be gravely stupid. Maybe they even played the wrong game, or a beta, or early access, or on bad hardware. And this is where I think a lot of the conspiracy theorizing and trying to dismiss the negative reviews, I think this satire kind of gets at that there are common criticisms, there are common things that people are pointing out and saying, hey, I just didn't really like this. And I kind of tweeted about this a couple of days ago and just said it takes a lot of hubris and just a lot of arrogance, I think, to just dismiss all these reviews because they don't align with your opinion. The people that are leaving these reviews, or somebody like myself, who I don't think it's a very good game, I'm not dismissing those who like it. I'm not dismissing the reviews of people who are like, I've poured hundreds of hours in, 9 out of 10, love it. I would never dismiss your positive experience. So dismissing all of these reviews on Steam as if they are somehow invalid, or not right, or they didn't play right, or they're just making it up, or, there's some sort of a bias against Xbox games on Steam. If you look at Hi-Fi Rush's score on Steam, you see plenty of evidence that isn't true. That thing did amazingly well on Steam. So let's keep reading here. Much more likely than these people disliking a game that you like, they are chaotic evil villains and paid shills from a rival corporation. As we all know, video game companies love paying people a lot of money and keeping those people paid. Right, because, if anybody actually believes that, that'd be crazy, but they'd have to continue to pay people to keep them quiet, right? Like if you were ever paid to go leave a bad review of something, it's just a ludicrous thought. And there's no better use of that cash than hiring dorks to write 2-paragraph reviews on Steam or Amazon. That's why there's an army of people who put in 50 hours into a AAA game and then write something you disagree with as an objective. While this would technically mean copies of the game are still getting sold so fake fans can review those games, therefore contributing to the success of the game anyway, that's just a technicality. It's fifth dimensional chess. this is something to consider, that even though it isn't scoring very well on Steam, it seems to have had commercial success on Steam. It seems to have sold very well. Now, obviously, I think it would have sold much better if the score had landed higher, because we saw this happen with The Day Before in an extreme example, right? Its score fell so low that it stopped selling almost immediately. And generally, sales charts on a site like Steam will be directly affected by a very bad score. Jedi Survivor is a good example of this. Just not very good presence on Steam, not a lot of reviews, not as many purchases, because people go, see the low score, and then they don't buy. They read the reviews, they see, oh, it's a bad port, what have you. So even in the face of that, Starfield has still seemingly done well on Steam and sold lots of copies. It's just that people aren't coming to the conclusion that this was some, 9 out of 10 amazing experience. It's been a very disappointing game for a lot of us. And I think that's driving the score maybe lower. You might even argue that like maybe the score is a little bit lower than you might think it's deserved because expectations were so high, but I also think that people on Steam are a little bit more critical of the loading screens and some of the dated tropes, because you're dealing with people who typically like to have a very good and more modern experience. And people on console maybe are of varying degrees of opinions on this, because we did just leave behind a generation of console where there were lots of loading screens and 30 FPS and things like that. So it's possible that Steam's scoring lower just because they expect better from their games because of how far games have come, and console gamers might be a little bit more tolerant of some of these old sort of baked in, things of the past, if you think of it in that way. Oh, don't get me wrong, in this vast conspiracy against you and the game that you like, getting a score that makes you feel smarter for liking it, some fans are just doing it because they hate the company that makes the game or the console that the game is on. They own a different console and must prove that a very different game for it is better. Only one game can be bestest of the bestest. Or, I don't know, maybe they have a grudge against the storefront the game is sold on. If you tied every human on Earth to a chair and asked them with a truth serum, do you like this person's favorite game? They would, to a person, say, absolutely, this is truly a good game, and I'm pretending to criticize because the games I say I like are secretly bad. This is another thing I find interesting in these discussions, is everybody always wants to talk about the other platforms' games. And that doesn't make any sense to me. I've been enjoying a whole host of games this year, from VR games to indie titles like Viewfinder, to even going back and playing finally The Last of Us Part 1 remake, because I haven't played it since I borrowed my brother's PlayStation 3 to play it. And so I wanted to experience it at those high level of graphics. And just the animosity that people have about games. It's like, if you don't like them or don't own the system, then who really cares? Like, I play tons of games and don't play tons of games. I have my own tastes. I have the things that I like and the things that I dislike, and Starfield just didn't land where I wanted it to land. That doesn't mean that it can't turn things around. I mean, Cyberpunk did a complete 180 for me with Phantom Liberty, so stranger things have happened, but this game doesn't necessarily even need to be compared against other games, and that's something I continually see brought up. It's like, oh, well, those are one and done games, you're done with them now. So, like, plenty of games in the industry that win awards, you put 20, 25, maybe 30 hours in, and then that's the end of it. Now, you might do New Game Plus, or you might do, some DLC, but this idea that Starfield's somehow special because people keep talking about it, and it's super relevant. It's like, well, it's relevant because of the negativity. It's relevant because of the criticism. I wouldn't say that a team that's doing very poorly in its sports season, being talked about all season for how poorly they're performing, you wouldn't, conclude that means they're a good team. And I think a lot of the dialogue around Starfield is completely legitimate and deserved. It that high expectations and fell well below them. So, it's a dangerous world out there, and it can be the most painful news in the world to see a game you like falling to mostly negative on Steam, even if your experience was mostly positive. But the reason that it's hard is because when a fan, not even a disgusting video game reviewer, a fan criticizes a game you like, they're actually criticizing you as a human being. They don't think you have any right to exist. How are they making this leap without ever explicitly saying so? Science has yet to find that out. Important historians and chemists are at work every hour on this case. But the medical community can attest that if someone says that they don't enjoy a game that you do, it means they might not even have self-awareness or object permanence. They're a dead flesh mannequin robot whose view are an illusion. You live within the silliest microcosm parody of the human condition. It's not your fault. This is well written. This is funny. I mean, the idea here, I think, is that, people thinking differently than you, they just get so ridiculed and criticized. It's like, there are people that don't like movies that I like. The point that it's not about you, right? They're not criticizing you. And I think too many people integrate the games they play and the brands they like sort of into their identity. So like if they gets criticized, and they feel like they're being criticized. A wave of bad user reviews immediately after a game is released is only proof that the conspiracy against you wants to ruin the experience before it even starts. They didn't finish the game. A wave of bad user reviews a couple of months after a game is released is only proof that the conspiracy against you wants to drive down sales out of pure cruelty. They have 50 hours listed on their review. They must have liked the game if they finished it. A wave of bad user reviews far later is only proof that the conspiracy against you jumped on a Steam sale, and therefore casual players are misunderstanding the experience or something. The comedy here is getting at the absurdity of, I've continued to say that this discussion, there's just no falsifiable nature to it. Like, someone will say, oh, you didn't play enough, so you can't criticize it. And then once they play enough to criticize it, then we're told, oh, well, you played 50 or 100 hours, you must have liked it. I think people need to remember that a lot of the time, sunk cost fallacy is a thing. Once people have put so many hours in a game, they're going to kind of keep going, hoping it gets better. Have you ever watched a show and hoped that it got better? Have you ever watched a movie all the way to completion and hope that it got better? Nobody watches an entire season of a show and then tells you it's bad, and you're like, oh, but you watched the whole season, you must be lying. And I know that, 75 hours or 100 hours in Starfield's not necessarily comparable to sitting down and watching a TV show. I think it's similar because people want to see how it plays out, or maybe they want to see, hey, maybe I am playing wrong. Like, I started playing differently and I started having a better experience, but that doesn't necessarily mean it was good enough for me to recommend it. It was like I had to change my expectations, change the way I was playing, and then I would have had to have completely ignored the fact that Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty gave me a more, I think, preferable or higher quality experience in the vein of a game with like RPG elements and guns and NPCs and quests and talking to people, like that sort of mesh together that you get in both Cyberpunk and Starfield. I just feel like Cyberpunk did a better job, so I felt like I was taking a step back in time when I went to Starfield. And if you tell people that, it's just commonly the trap that you fall into, as the comedy of the bit here gets at, is like, well, people made a bunch of reviews in the beginning and, well, they didn't play enough. And then people make a bunch of reviews later and it's some kind of a conspiracy, or, oh, they're lying, they played all these hours. And I don't know that many people who play a ton of hours and give bad review scores that would then be questioned. We see this all the time. I can go to Steam right now, look up plenty of games, and see people who have left negative review scores who have played a bunch. I don't throw those over my shoulder, because what that means is there is no legitimate negative review of any game in existence, because you're going to dismiss the people who only played it for an hour or two, and you're also going to dismiss the people who played it for 20 to 100 hours. You're going to dismiss both people. Like, what's the Goldilocks review? Like, how long do they have to play where you would legitimately say, oh, they're worthy of criticizing it or giving it a bad score? Because it sounds like there's no such thing as a legitimate negative review in the view of people that sort of defend Starfield. Continuing here. Plus, in your defense, a large number of people played the game that you didn't make nor profit from the success of. It is impossible for a game to have a growing player base and a growing number of negative player reviews. That math dog just don't hunt numbers. One couldn't ever lead to the other during a free period or a reduction in cost, and fans of any ongoing art form have never ended up disappointed than more disappointed than they started. Rather, this must all be malicious against you personally. Anyone who disagrees with you is lying. Nay, not even lying. They are bullying you and the billionaire game company owners who need you as an emotional shield. And this is where I just want people to kind of laugh. Like, just, can we laugh at the way people have been talking about video games in 2023? Like, we're in a new year. Can we laugh at some of this? Like, you don't need to defend these companies with an emotional shield. Like, I definitely have defended decisions, choices, or business strategies because I believe that will net me a better benefit as a consumer, but I don't necessarily feel like I have to defend a really good game. I've had people hate on Hellblade, one of my all-time favorite games, and I sometimes feel like it's just bait. Like, they want to bait you into defending a game, right? All this time, you were right. Anyone who does not enjoy a game and says so publicly must be confronted with the truth online. According to polls, 90% of the world's citizens agree your game is the most fun of the year, and it only didn't win at the Game Awards because of a briefcase that shines gold when you open it. Sure, you could just have fun with the game anyway and enjoy a good time with the experience you paid for, and maybe even write a positive review yourself. Yeah, the dialogue around the Game Awards was comical as well. The idea that there was some kind of an Xbox tax. I really appreciate this article mocking and making fun of and satirizing this entire thing, because it's been a bit of a comedy to watch it play out, and I would rather laugh at it than take it seriously, because it shouldn't be. Finishing up the article here, but no, we must deploy government forces before anyone else can criticize your baby. The culture depends on us. The console race depends on us. Humanity depends on us. God bless and good luck. Well, again, this was written by Mike Drucker, television writer and stand-up comedian, and again has written for The Tonight Show, Adam Ruins Everything, even Mystery Science Theater 3000. So let's just laugh about this, okay? You're allowed to like Starfield. I'm allowed to think it's a bad game, and we both can look at each other's opinions as legitimate because everybody experiences video games differently. And dismissing all of the negative reviews, well, then that means you can dismiss the positive reviews because nobody's opinion is supposed to matter at that point, right? So its reviews score is going to continue to drop, but maybe in 2024 with the updates every 6 weeks that can turn around and we can see that 2.0 moment happen for Starfield. I only think you're going to have a 2.0 moment though if the community asks for it. If you keep acting like the game is flawless and above any level of criticism, well, then maybe you'll never get that redemption arc that some of us want to see happen for Starfield. So let me know what you think in a comment below. If you want to be sort of part of the process here on the channel of planning things, we have a writer's level of membership that you can come with me into the next segment, which is the writer's room. So hit that join button and pick that. If not, hit subscribe and the bell button, and I'll see you in the next video.